Secretary, please take the roll of the board members present. You have before you the minutes of the September 14th meeting. Are there any corrections or additions? Motion by Pat. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Trevor. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Carried unanimously. The agenda, regular agenda for the meeting this morning, number one on the list is to consider a request to increase the maximum height for a pylon sign to 50 feet at 11080 to 32nd Street Southwest. Who's here to speak for that? We have your information, but we'd like to hear all the information from you too.
Sure. Good morning, Scott Heckelman with Boundary Engineering. I submitted the application for the variance pertaining to the height of the sign at this piece of property. With that application, there should be some photo pictures pertaining to the property. Bruce from Indigo Signs here and I went out to the property and we took some pictures where he had a boom truck and we set up a sign, and from 3 different locations out on Highway 22 we took photos of the boom truck at 30 feet high pertaining to a sign height of 30 feet high. The sign moved to 40 feet high and then the sign moved to 50 feet high to give you a kind of a perspective of where this property is in association to what a sign would be on the property. So if you want to kind of look through those photos, you can see on page 2 of that sheet of the handout, the red outline is the location of the property off of Highway 22. And then I put on a location there where we have took our first pictures at location 1, pictures at location 2, which is 32nd Street, and then also took pictures up on north of 32nd Street where there's a access in over at Lufkin business. You guys are associated where Lufkin is, and Marathon Oil. That's where our third photo shoot was taken at. So what you see here on the different pictures is location 1 will have that crane at 30 feet. The photo, you actually cannot see the sign hardly. It's just above that commercial industrial for sale lot sign. It's just above the word, or the F in 4 at the grass line. You can just barely catch the top of it. If you go to picture 2 of location 1, then you can see the sign at 40 feet, and then also you can see the next photo will show it at 50 feet. So the progression is showing you how that crane is changing in height at each location. You can also see in that for sale sign, how those lots are going to be developed at that piece of property. The darker green one in the middle, that is our property that we're discussing. And so if any buildings get built at in those 3 lots to the west of ours, you'll see what happens with our sign pertaining to any kind of building that gets built on that piece of property. That's the reason that we want to try to increase our sign height to 50 feet.
Questions?
Picture says 1,000 words.
I think you're right, Bruce. Very good. Anyone here to speak for or against?
I'm Boyd.
You're for it.
This is Boyd. Boyd, he's a partner on the project.
Okay. Very good. Leonard, do you have any comments?
To date, I haven't received any phone calls for or against.
Okay.
And that whole area, that's zoned commercial, light industrial, is that what that is?
It's general, industrial, light industrial.
Okay.
Any further comments? Question? Are you ready to make a decision?
I'll move that we accept the adjustment.
Motion by Bruce to approve the request. Is there a second? Second by Pat. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Bruce?
Aye.
Pat? Trevor?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Do a nice job with that
All right,
sign.
thank you.
Thank you, we will, appreciate it.
Next on the list, to consider a request to construct and operate a digital off-premise sign at 363 15th Street West. Who's here? Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joel Fremstead. I'm here on behalf of Sky Digital, and I've got Paul Hilt of Sky Digital with me as well. Would you like me to proceed?
You go right ahead.
Okay.
Give us all the details there.
Well, I won't give you all the details because I think as you've seen from the packet, there's sort of a long, strange history with this project. Sky Digital is a company that only does digital billboards, so it tries to put up nice current technology and now has about 30 signs. So it's not trying to blast the whole universe with them. They've got signs into Minnesota and then out here in western North Dakota and everywhere in between, but not a lot of signs in any given city. We try to find good locations for these signs. Sky Digital began trying to put a sign over at the Astoria location in June of 2013. At that time, Mr. Curtin was the Community Development Director, and I think it's fair to say that Mr. Curtin did not like any advertising signs, but also did not like digital billboards either. That said, what we really tried to do at Sky Digital, we had a number of different employees that over the course of a couple of years tried to keep working with Mr. Curtin, and of course then the city went through its process of addressing the sign code. Sky Digital was actually denied 3 times, but instead of appealing, instead of going the court route, we just kept trying to fine-tune things and work with Mr. Curtin and other city officials. Finally, in September of 2014, Sky Digital had a 13 by 40 sign that was approved, and Sky Digital began the process of getting a contractor ready and buying the materials, and this is a $250,000 plus investment. And then in August of this year, Sky Digital went to go dig the hole out in front of the Astoria. Still has a permit, only to have the police show up and say, stop. And so we had to stop. Well, it turns out, as indicated in the materials, that apparently in November of 14, after we had been granted this permit for the sign that we'd worked for a year and a half for, Mr. Curtin revoked the permit. And our position is we never got this letter. We wouldn't have went ahead and ordered a $250,000 worth of signs and equipment if we'd ever gotten this letter. We wouldn't have started drilling a hole. We've always worked with all of the communities we've been in, and we're not about to start ignoring city officials. I've actually tried to talk to Mr. Curtin. He's down in Iowa now. I tried to find him, and he's not responsive to me, so I don't really completely know what happened. But in any event, we have worked with Mr. Hadley and Ms. Goss and trying to put a variance together. We'd rather we didn't have to get a variance, but it was what the city staff suggested, and we've gone through then that process. Ultimately, there's only really one barrier that exists, and that is, if you see in the packet, Exhibit 4C2, on the Cenex sign, there's this Cenex sign becomes off-premises advertising because you have a sign by the Ramada and the Comfort Inn. And that is something that at the time of the permit, Sky Digital, we'd actually gotten in 4C1 a survey and tried to do everything right, noted that that sign existed, but we were still granted the permit. So again, I don't know what happened exactly, but after the fact, apparently, this became an issue. So we would ask, given that we've got actually the sign, I think, sitting over in the Astoria parking lot, that we be allowed a variance to put up the sign. As we've indicated, you know, in the materials, we don't believe that when we have the city having granted the permit, again, no proof that we were ever sent this letter, and Mr. Curtin and Mr. Colwing, the former city attorney, in similar cases, normally they would have a proof of service so that we'd be able to go, hey, we sent it. No one has been able to find anything like that. We also don't think that this is going to impact negatively adjoining landowners. Again, it's going to be a very nice sign. It's perpendicular to Highway 22 there, and there's no other digital signs, you know, that would be within any setbacks. It's really just these two small signs. Ironically, it's not a problem if you have just the Senex sign, but because it has these two off-premise signs, all of a sudden then we become to have an issue with being within 1,000 feet of an off-premise sign. If it was like this, we'd be perfectly kosher. That, there's now an issue. So under those circumstances, we believe that this sign would be valuable. Again, Sky Digital, we work with the communities, we do code red or amber alert type things, and would ask that the variance be granted under these circumstances.
Okay, very good. Visibility on that corner, not an issue?
No, not an issue. You know, again, the only reason that there's an issue at all is because of those two small signs. The sign itself will be about 35 feet high. You know, so it's kind of similar to a lot of other digital or billboard signs. So it's going to be plenty high. You're not going to have any issues with vehicles not being able to see.
So is that 35 feet to the bottom of the sign?
No, that's
To the
35
top?
feet to the top,
Okay.
Paul.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's not going to be a huge, you know, sign. It's large, but it's not huge.
How big is it?
13 by 40. Yep. And through the process of working with Mr. Curtin, we had tried single side versus double side versus different sizes, and ultimately, it was the 13 by 40 that was approved. And so one of the sides will be a digital, and then the other will be a static.
Okay, any other comment?
Well, I learned a lot reading this saga, and in layman's terms, is everything within the guidelines except for this?
Yes.
So that's the only thing that's in question?
Yes.
And just so you know, at one point, there was a concern that there was going to be another digital sign within 1,500 feet, but again, that's no longer an issue because Dakota Outdoor, who had that other permit, has only put up a static, and so at this point, that digital permit has expired. So we will be the only digital within that spacing.
Is this the only sign that you have in Dickinson?
I believe we have one 2 miles north, but that's actually through Stark County.
Okay. By the county,
Line truck stop.
this is going to be the same type of sign? Okay. That's a nice
Completely
sign.
enclosed in the back. It's very well professionally done. You don't see the guts.
Yeah.
Other comments? Anyone here to speak for or against, would like to speak? Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one. I agree with the history that he presented on that from what I can gather, going through the process after the fact also. I do have a question, the change of message. How many seconds are you proposing to?
Generally speaking, there's an 8-second loop, 7-second. So it's an instantaneous change. So by using that 7-second, then it switches over. You can kind of get a rotation of 8 every minute. And, you know, we've been dealing with signs throughout. We dealt with the Detroit Lakes. That 7-8 second is generally considered the safest. You don't want it to go 3 or 4 seconds because then it can appear that it's flashing. You also don't want it to be a lot longer because when people start waiting for it to change, like if it's, some places might have a minute or something like that, it's actually more dangerous, because then you'll try to have people waiting for the next thing to flip up. So you really want it to be about that 7 seconds. We don't try to go faster than that.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification in that. Yes, I would concur with that also. Thanks.
Thank you. Leonard, any further?
To date, I have not received any calls for or against.
Very good. Any other comments, questions from the board director? If not, are you ready to make a decision?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we grant the variance based on the information.
Motion by Pat to grant the variance for the digital sign. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Bruce. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Pat? Bruce?
Aye.
Trevor?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. I know it'll be a good job.
Thank you. We'll enjoy the wind to push back home. Thank you.
You're welcome. Third on our list, to consider a request to exceed the detached accessory structure on an R1 zone lot by 412 square feet at 327 First Avenue Southeast. Who's here to speak?
Good morning. My name is Gerald Ducart, and I'm just requesting a garage with an alley access at my place, and I guess it exceeds the amount that you can have for space. Just going to be a storage for vehicles and such. And I have a double lot, so there's plenty of room on there. And also, there's only one person that it would affect at any amount, and that would be next door to me. But there's a fence and trees and such between us. Other than that, it's all open. The lots to the north of me are vacant, and across the back alley is the parking lot for the Dickinson Municipal Ballpark. So there's nothing there.
Okay, very good. The storage shed that's there, will that come down?
Yes,
You're going to take that out?
right.
Okay. Yeah, your lot looks nice and clean, and that's great.
Right, yes.
Any
Try to keep it
questions?
all clean.
So,
Go ahead.
so how much over is it?
412.
So legally, he could build just a really small shed, but he wants to go over that, 600 and... Okay, okay. Is that based on the size of the lot, or is that just based on, that 200 and some feet that he's allowed? Is that, what's that based on?
It, per lot, up to an acre, City of Dickinson, you can have 1,200 square feet of detached accessory structure.
Okay. And so if his garage was attached to the house, that would be, that wouldn't even be an issue?
It would be, because you cannot have an attached accessory larger than the footprint of your house.
Oh,
If he did have a garage attached, actually both of these exceed the house footprint.
Okay. Okay, Bruce? Any other questions?
Any complaints from the neighbors?
To date, I haven't received for or against.
I did talk to the neighbors to the south, and they did not have a problem with it, so. And other than that, the ones across the street wouldn't even see it.
Yeah.
They could not see it, so.
How tall are the sidewalls?
How tall are they gonna be?
Yeah.
I think 9 feet is what we're looking at, yes.
Is that
The
specified?
code
in
still
this?
applies to,
Okay.
even if this variance, he's not in for a height variance, he'd still have to comply with the code.
Okay.
Any other further comments? No one here to speak for or against? Are you ready for a decision?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the variance as requested.
Motion by Trevor. Is there a second? Second by Pat. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Bruce?
Aye.
Trevor?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Good job down there.
Thank you.
Keep it nice and clean, Lee.
Oh, yeah, we'll do that. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Anything else come before the board?
No.
If not, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Trevor, second by Pat. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.